here to talk about the Musiclily Distortion 01, and there are a few other distortions, so if you happen to like this video, please make sure you leave a like so that the company knows to send me the other distortions as well, so I can check those out, and so you can see them on the relatively same setup. This was sent to me by Musiclily, so thank you to them for that. So this pedal obviously has a lot of controls. So first thing we have is level. Level controls the overall output and volume that will be put through the amplifier, or at least output through the pedal. Then we have Pres, which stands for presence, and I have not been messing with this pedal too much, so honestly I don't know what that does on this pedal exactly. How it usually works in an amplifier setting is that it adds a little bit of a bump in the treble or bass depending on, how high or low it is. Then we have gain, which that is obviously going to be the drive, the distortion, the metalness of the guitar pedal. Then we of course have treble, which controls how much highs there are, mids, and that's how much middle frequency there is, and bass, which controls how much low end, how much bass frequencies are included in the guitar pedal, your output tone. So let's start with a clean tone. Very nice. So now let's turn everything to noon except for the level. The level will be set where it needs to be set for the recording. Alright, let's hear everything at noon. So, right off the bat, obviously this was not marketed as a metal distortion, however, it kind of has that vibe based off of all of the controls and the, being black, which usually, that's usually how metal pedals are colored. But this does not have as much gain as many other distortions do, even other ones that are not marketed as metal distortions, just simply distortions. So let's start by messing with the gain and turning that up to around, let's say the 230 position. already, you know, decent bit more gain, pretty distortion-like, kind of metal-like. That's a decent metal tone if you ask me. The pedal is built in a metal enclosure. It's a seemingly custom enclosure because it has these rounded tops and bottoms, though I guess maybe it could be OEM'd. Either way, it's nice to see something a little different, though it did make setting up this video a little more difficult because it can tilt side to side and, you know, throw off the markers a little bit in terms of how they should be. At least on camera, I mean. The knobs feel decent. They have like the just right feel where they're not going to be so stiff that they're hard to move and kind of can be difficult to move. They are also not super loose where they're going to be easy to knock around, though they probably could be knocked around. But with these knob styles, it looks like it might be a little harder to get to mess it up with your feet during use. Comes in black. It has a nice little design on the front of it. It's nothing extravagant, but it gets the job done and gives it its own little personality. The DC jack is on the side under the output jack, which doesn't work for some people's pedal boards. Hopefully it does for you, but the only other thing of note is that the foot switch on this one and the other pedal that I reviewed, these foot switches are very stiff and crunchy in my opinion. Listen to this. Okay, so it's not really crunchy, but it is stiff, and it's a very firm press and very stiff click. So that is kind of up to preference, whether or not that's a good or bad thing. Usually to me, when it's stiffer, that makes me think it's a lesser quality switch, but some switches are just designed with a heavier click to prevent accidentally turning it on and off and bumping into it and that sort of stuff. Overall, the construction is great. It's decent. It seems like it could hold up in a few shows at least if you took it out gigging. And yeah, the only thing of note that may or may not be to your liking is that foot switch and I guess the DC jack. Either way, let's move on. So let's turn the gain all the way up and see if that sounds any different. Very nice. It's a very good drive. For being maxed out, a lot of distortions go above and beyond and give it just, you know, generally too much gain. Usually it's very compressed. I feel like this is kind of, you know, an appropriate level of gain for metal, and then it gets, you know, it backs off from there. So just for the sake of doing it, let's see what the gain sounds like around the 130 position. So yeah, very interesting. Some distortions, when you turn them all the way down, they don't even get, clean. This one might be able to. Let's just hear it for a second with the gain all the way down. Wow, it's really quiet. So yeah, this distortion can get clean, which is very surprising because, like I said, not many distortions can do that. Some of them, they always have a little bit of grit and they just sound bad turned down. This one, not so much. It sounds pretty decent, but I think this is more emulating a sort of amplifier circuit more than anything else. For those who care, the box is a copy and pasted design where everything is the same except for the description sticker, which actually these stickers are a little weird because they don't say the same designations as what's on the pedal. And even the overdrive, actually, the name on the pedal is Super Overdrive, yet on the box it says Super Overload, and then has a completely different number. So that's weird. Anyway, the box is okay, but it doesn't say any description of what pedal is inside on the ends, which I personally do not like since I am a collector of these sort of things. The packing is decent. It's about as good as to be expected in a lot of these affordable pedals. It's only covered in a plastic film to keep the pedal fresh and just about nothing else. However, there are accessories that are included with these pedals. So the first thing, if you watched the last video, it's gonna be the same. First thing is the feet of the pedal. If you like the rubber feet, you have the option to apply these. The back of the pedal has these little indents to put these in, and they don't cover the back screws. If that is something that you like to do, is open up the pedals. So that's really cool of them. It also comes with a 9-volt battery external DC adapter, so you can plug this directly into the DC port where you normally have a pedal power supply. You can just use a 9-volt battery like many other pedals allow you to do internally, but this one allows you to do it externally, and so it's a lot easier. I don't know if you can actually plug in a battery internally, but you don't have to with this. And then the last thing that was included in the overall packaging, I think, was a guitar pick. Yeah, it says Musiclily.com on there. This one still feels about like a heavy to medium heavy, somewhere around there. Doesn't say what thickness it is, so I can't tell you that exactly. Either way, overall, there are nice accessories, but the packaging is only okay. Let's turn the gain back up to, let's say, the 130 position. Alright, we have the volume set to where it needs to be. So what's next? This is going to be a complicated review because there's so many tonal options that this pedal is capable of. So let's just generally see what happens when I turn the presence all the way up. So, it gets generally treblier. I was gonna say better, but that's a matter of opinion. It just seems, it gets more top end, maybe even a little more mid, pushed in the top end as well. Mid highs, which have some nice frequencies, harmonics, all that sort of advanced goodness in there. So now let's hear what happens when I turn the presence all the way down. interestingly, it just kind of sounded quieter. It might roll off a bit more of the treble and bring up a little bit of the bass, but it doesn't overpower it like a lot of other distortion and especially metal pedals do, where they can just absolutely just kick the crap out of that bass and then just shake a frickin' room. This one, it reins it in. It seems like it's a very responsible distortion, if that's how you want to put it. So let's turn the presence back to noon, and then I'll try and think of what to do next. For the sake of seeing how powerful this EQ is, I don't know if this is going to demonstrate anything, but I'm going to turn everything down on the other EQs and turn one of them all the way up and see how that sounds. It's probably not going to sound great, but it's going to be interesting, I hope. Let's start with the middle. We're going to turn the middle all the way up and everything else all the way down. Except we are going to leave the presence in the middle. Honestly, that didn't sound half bad to me. It may be a little lacking in some areas, but, that's to be expected. But what I didn't expect was for that to actually sound decent. Usually, when you can push the mids, it gets a little, telephonic, let's say. And I mean that in the way that it sounds like your guitar tone is coming through a telephone. So, with that being said, let's turn everything all the way down and go and turn up the treble. This might get a little piercing. That explains why it sounds so bassy, is because I accidentally turned up the bass instead of the treble. That is why I was caught so off guard. Okay, so I accidentally turned up the bass, which that sounds about as I expected, though there is a decent bit of treble there. You can hear a decent bit of that grit that's in there. But of course, it's a little more rumbly, maybe a little more bass friendly. That's one thing that I always think about trying is trying these pedals with these bassier tones on bass guitar. Either way, let's actually do treble this time and turn everything else down. So now it might actually get piercing. So, once again, that didn't actually sound bad. I was kind of expecting something a little more fizzly and that sort of stuff, but again, I think it's just because I'm used to metal distortions where they push things too far, because, metal is about pushing things to the extreme. This is just a respectable, responsible, good distortion for, the actual musician who's usually not making a crushing tone, but they're focused on getting some dynamics and such in their song and then in their playing. It's very interesting. So let's try a mid-scooped thing for fun. Let's do the ultimate mid-scoop where we have the treble turned all the way up and the bass turned all the way up with the mids turned all the way down. People love the mid-scoop, even though technically it's technically bad for a band mix. I hope I was on the middle pickup when I was doing the rest of this review. I thought I was, but I might not have been. That really sucks if I wasn't. It's really hard to tell, and I probably couldn't even tell in the video anyway. Anyway, that was interesting, of course. It is, of course, like I've been saying, not as extreme as some other pedals have done it, but you know, is probably a good thing, honestly. Alright, so I think I've given you a general good idea of what this pedal is capable of. There are many tonal options that can happen, obviously, since there are so many knobs on this guitar pedal. But let me know what you thought of this pedal in the comments down below. Overall, my final opinion of it is that it's just a respectable distortion. It doesn't take anything too extreme. There might be a little more bass in there than a guitarist should have, but it's still not overbearing where it really flubs out and starts shaking a room. It's nothing like the Metal Master by Digitech. Overall, I really like this distortion, and has a nice drive, and it kind of keeps you from getting yourself into too much trouble, and you know, kind of protects you from you, I guess, if that's how you want to do it. It's a very good beginner distortion before moving on and trying anything else, like even a Metal Zone clone, like I believe the Ultra Metal by Behringer, or the Metal Zone by Boss. So yeah, I have a very good opinion of this pedal, and honestly, I might even use it in the future on my own personal boards and stuff. But if you want to try it out, please use the link in the description below. It is an affiliate link, which adds no cost to you. It just helps me out just a little bit monetarily if you do happen to purchase this pedal or anything after using that link in the same tab. If you want to see more videos from me and want to keep me on this platform, then please consider hitting the subscribe button, and maybe even consider becoming a member for my channel. That's all I have to say for now, so I'm going to say bye-bye.